Imagine that you are a judge in a court of law, and you have two witnesses in front of you, Witness A and Witness B. You are analyzing a robbery case, and you get two different accounts regarding the suspect. Witness A says that the suspect was wearing a yellow shirt, had glasses on, and was driving a car. Witness B, however, says that the suspect was wearing a blue shirt, had no glasses, was walking on foot, and was chewing gum. In this scenario, what most lawyers would say is that the witness descriptions simply don't match at all, and that they simply contradict each other too much to be accepted as trustworthy. But what would a Christian apologist say? An apologist may say something like this. Your Honor, this is what must have happened. The suspect was wearing a shirt that was both yellow and blue, and he was in his car when the car suddenly broke down. The moment that he got out of the car to start walking, his glasses fell and he began chewing gum. This is obviously what happened here. This is basically what is known as harmonization, and it's something that Christian apologists do in order to resolve the problem of Bible contradictions. Basically, it consists of trying very hard to imagine some ad hoc and contrived scenario that makes both contradictory accounts appear at least logically possible. Bible scholar Dan McClellan has some great words on this. Let's check it out.
Now, normally, when you want to get rid of a contradiction, you gin up imaginary scenarios that are not in evidence so that you can create the reality behind the tellings of these stories in a way that allows the different tellings to all be true. And this is a bad faith effort to begin with that frequently has to retreat to just arguing that it's not impossible that all of the details are true.
If you want more, I recommend this great video of him, where he goes deeply into the contradictions at the resurrection account and the failure of apologetics' attempts at harmonizing them. I will add a link in the description. New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman also has some comments on this. Let's take a look.
In theory, just about anything can be reconciled if you work hard enough at it. I walked to Chicago yesterday. Well, I was on the plane, and I walked up and down the aisle. So technically speaking, I did walk to Chicago. Okay, but that isn't how we talk, right? We don't talk that way. So in theory, you can reconcile anything in the Bible you want.
That is not how we talk. That sentence perfectly encapsulates the problem with harmonizations. They often work by stretching language in a way that is simply not reasonable. Let's take a quick look at a couple of examples in order to illustrate my point. My first example is one of the most well-known contradictions in the Gospels, the issue of the number of angels that were present at the empty tomb. How many angels were present at the tomb? Mark and Matthew say one angel, while Luke and John say that two angels were present at the tomb. This seems to me like a very clear discrepancy. So, how do apologists respond to this? The answer is very silly. They say that if there are two angels, then logically there was also one angel. So technically, there's no contradiction.
For example, the Gospel Mark at the empty tomb reports one young man. Later Gospels will say there's two angels. That's not a contradiction because if there's two, there's one.
Like Bart Ehrman says, that's not just how we talk. If you enter a room and there are two angels there, you don't narrate this later as, I entered the room and there was one angel, with the excuse that if there are two angels, then logically there is also one angel. This would be a very dumb way to narrate an event. Or imagine that you witness a robbery and the police later ask you to tell them what happened. You tell them, one man entered the bank and stole the money. Now, imagine that the police later get security footage from the scene and it clearly shows two men entering and robbing the bank. When the police confront you about this, you tell them, well, if there are two men, then logically there's also one man. Do you think this excuse is going to work? I don't think so. Let's take a look at another example. We all know the story where Jesus expels the sellers out of the temple. There is an apparent contradiction between the Gospel of John and the Synoptics in the timing of the event. The Gospel of John seems to place the cleansing of the temple at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, while the Synoptic Gospels place it at the end, on the same week that he died. Some scholars say John changed the timing of the event due to theological reasons, but there is another proposed harmonization which is really ad hoc and silly. It is to say that Jesus must have cleansed the temple on two different occasions. Let's take a look.
But Craig Blomberg notes the majority position of Christian writers, up until recently, has simply been that Jesus cleansed the temple twice, once at the beginning and once at the end of his ministry.
There are a few problems with this solution. First, if there were two separate temple cleansing events, then what are the odds that each of the 4 individual gospel authors decided to mention only one of them? How come not a single one of the gospel authors reported both events? This doesn't seem very plausible to me. A second problem, many commenters have said that this event was the main catalyst that led to Jesus' arrest. Something like the straw that broke the camel's back. This makes much more sense if the event happened one time as opposed to several times. The idea that this big event happened twice simply seems too ad hoc and implausible to me. Christian YouTuber Inspiring Philosophy made an entire video trying to defend this harmonization. I actually made a full response video to it where I debunked his arguments. So if you want to take a deeper look into it, please go check out my video. I will add a link to the description. And that's it for today. This was the first of a series of videos on Bible contradictions. Next time, we'll take a deep look at another example, the contradiction on how Judas died, and I will show you why traditional harmonization's efforts fail to completely resolve all the discrepancies in the narratives. Please subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss it. Also, please help me out by giving a like to this video. See you next time.